Hey, this Ramon channel is Alpha 4. I'm trying out a different angle. I don't know if I'm ever going to use this angle again. That's where my cat likes to look out the window. That's my mother's, whatever that thing is called. Those are my weights over there. Those are my books. That's my religious corner. That's actually an Orthodox thing, but some Catholics do it and I like it. So, combine Catholic and Orthodox, although it's supposed to be exactly in the corner, but you know, whatever. Anyway, why am I making this video? Well, so a few years ago, I was looking for atheists to answer honest questions, and I couldn't find any, honestly. The best questions I got were actually from a guy called Gar Mania. For a little bit, me and him, I guess, were YouTube friends. I'm not really sure we still are. I like him. But that was kind of the best atheist questions I got. And everyone else was just kind of a dick. Gutless cranium exemplified. And even when I'd give good answers or qualified answers or well-researched, backed up answers, people like Gutless Cranium would just deflect them. It's one of the reasons why I really like what Cosmic Skeptic is doing. Because Cosmic Skeptic, when he launched his channel, I watched a lot of his videos and he really turned me off and I never went back. Recently, he did a video debunking himself where he went back and his criticisms of his video debunking the Kalam theory are exactly my arguments against him, which I was very impressed. In fact, he even went a step beyond and he had some issues with the formulation of his argument that I never even thought of. And if you go back and watch maybe the last 12 or 13 videos of Cosmic Skeptic, they're miles beyond what he was doing back when I rejected his channel. Just to be very clear, the atheist stuff that I like is like AIU. He'll be back, I'm sure. Maybe. And I like the old Sargon of Akkad stuff. Don't really like his current stuff. And really liked the Logic. Logic was just great. That's the kind of atheist material that I enjoy. I read a lot of atheist stuff. I enjoy atheist arguments. But sometimes it's very patronizing and very, let's call it double standardy. And when it comes to religious stuff, I don't actually listen to too much Catholic arguments. I do listen to Catholic Answers simply because I like Jimmy Akin. And I am beginning to appreciate Trent Horn, but his original stuff, not so much. And as I said in a previous video, I'm not really big on the whole apologetics through the problem of abortion. So Trent Horn really was not my flavor for a very long time. I'm more like the apologetics of a lot of Protestant and even Calvinist preachers. I really like David Wood. I like James White, although he's super anti-Catholic, so very unenjoyable. But I watch him every single episode of his. I also like Quran Speaks. I listen to a few Muslim channels, but since I've quit doing videos on the Quran, I've kept it just to Quran Speaks because I like Shabir. I'm not a fan of Muhammad Ajab. I believe that's his name. Oof, he's worse than any atheist I've ever heard. He's very disrespectful toward any other religion. And I really don't appreciate people who just straight up lie. Although, one of my favorite pastors to listen to in an ironic sense was Brandon Sanderson. I hated everything he said. But for some reason, when it was coming out of his mouth, it was funny and enjoyable to listen to the insanity. While when you hear someone like Dr. Zakir Naik, a famous Muslim apologist, the nonsense that comes out of his mouth is not enjoyable. But the nonsense that came out of Brandon Sanderson's mouth, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that he said it. Maybe because I'm Southern and I enjoy that kind of Southern thing. So recently, Dallas Wade challenged me to some questions, and I responded. And I actually want to do a collab video with him. He's said He's expressed interest in doing a collab with me. I've expressed interest in doing a collab with him. It hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping it does happen. For one thing, we both like Gar, and for another thing, one of the best friends I've made over YouTube is a guy named Bad Tempered Badger, who at the time was a major atheist. I don't know where he's at now. Dallas Wade, his questions did not appeal to me. I answered them, and I gave him real solid answers, and then I gave a video explaining why I don't like the type of questions that he gave, and then I gave a video of type of questions that I wished were asked. And then I started watching his back catalog, and I noticed that he did, in a video, seem to say or to hint that he did originally give those really good questions that I was looking for. But I knew I recognized them. And he does have some questions, but they're the exact questions that I said I don't like. But let's check out what his questions were and see if I can answer them.
They were at best just arguments for deism. And so I think that the best approach to deconverting Christians is actually just challenging them to provide evidence to support the validity of the Bible.
So I don't know why your whole point would be to deconvert Christians. First off, I think that's a really shitty goal. I don't try to deconvert someone from atheism. Ask me my point of view, I will explain it. I was a Taoist for a very long time. I was a Socratic, and I'm currently a Stoic. So when I do arguments for religion or any of that kind of stuff, I do the Catholic thing, which is one of the things that he actually complains about, although he doesn't call it the Catholic thing. But it's arguing for the big G God, not for the specific God of a specific religion. Anyway, so that's what I do. So you start off on these kind of like small journeys kind of thing. But I've never tried to convert or deconvert anyone. They just simply talk to me and I talk to them back, and eventually something good happens.
If you want to prove that the Bible is true, prove to me that Yahweh exists, not just some great value God.
So there's a real big problem with his question number one. So his question number one is to prove that God exists, but prove that the specific God mentioned in the Old Testament exists. I'm not saying the name for a very specific reason, because I am Catholic with a capital C, and I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm also Sephardic. I have Jewish ancestry, so seriously, don't want to go there. But the problem comes with a misconception of who God is to modern Christians. And earlier in his video, because we're like 18 minutes in on his, the thing is, he explained that he's speaking to very specific Christians in his life, like his family members who do kind of kooky, weird spiritual beliefs that are not actually Christian-based or Catholicism-based. They're just based on random general spirituality. But the God that Christians, specifically Catholics, worship is the big G God, the singular God, that which created that which was before, that which will exist after all creation ends. So we believe, Catholics, that the Bible, when it comes to the specific God, is the documentation. And just to be clear, not all Catholics believe this, but this is a very specific thread that's in the Church Fathers that I already believed before I read the Church Fathers. This was my personal belief, and then it got, I guess, set in concrete when I saw that the Church Fathers also have this line of thinking. So this is that the Bible is a document that documents the evolution of faith of a single people. This happens to be the favored people of God. So while God loves everyone, God does love some people more. One of the specific people that he loves more are the Jewish people. And he can love other people outside of the Jewish people. He can have favored people who are not Jews, all of that. It actually goes back to a guy named Melchizedek, and that goes into the whole Christian thing with Christ being a form or type of Christ, prefiguration. Important part for this part, though, is that the God that is described in Catholicism is the big G God. not little g God, not an angel, not a spirit, not a being inside creation. It is that which created. And the formulas for understanding this is actually why many Protestants are well read call us and have labeled Catholics atheist, because we are arguing for the creator of the universe. We're not arguing for a specific deity. We just have to believe that our specific deity is of three persons. If you want three personalities, we avoid that kind of language, but you can kind of take it like that. And these three persons are one individual, and that's Trinitarian. We also believe that all these proofs are in the Bible, but we don't rely solely on the Bible for these proofs. We let the Bible set up the stage, and then through philosophy and argument, which arguments are what we consider proofs, through these arguments, as long as they are logically consistent, because we follow a Aristotelian logic formula is what we use in Catholicism for our proofs. That's three premises and a conclusion, as long as the premises are true and the conclusion is also true and everything is sound and valid and blah, blah, blah. Okay, you get the idea. Through this logic formula, we believe that there are proofs. This ontological formula, anyway, okay. Also, there's some mathematical formulas as well. But, and just for instance, Catholic priests are the ones who are behind the Big Bang Theory. Catholic monks, missionaries are behind the theory of evolution and the theory of genetics. You can look this up. You can look it up in Wikipedia. You don't even have to go to like a hard source. The Jesuits were doing a lot of study, and this is very anti-Protestant, very non-sola scriptura. We're doing these kind of studies, and when we did these studies and the Pope approved them and all that kind of stuff, we put those ideas out there. Now, we didn't come up with the stronger wordings. We didn't refine them as well as later people did. So Darwin refined the theory of evolution to a much better definition than what we originally came up with. But it is Catholics you have to thank for those ideas being put into academic writings for the first time. Why is that important? You just said, prove the specific God, not the broad. Because that's what Catholics are arguing for. We're arguing that the Bible is this one particular people's way of understanding that one true God, and that all religions contain a little bit of truth. In fact, we even believe secularism and humanism contains a little bit of truth. We affirm that. We just believe that that religion which contains the most truth is Catholicism, but that every religion from there is a little shade or deviation away from the truth. So Catholicism is the most true, then Orthodoxy, because we're two parts of the same body, then Judaism, because Judaism doesn't get the full revelation, then blah, blah, blah. And it just goes on and on like that. And the chosen people are the Jewish people. Whole other thing. Anyway, God has a specific relation to Jewish people. So the evidence for the Bible, if you wanted to go that route, which you do, which I wouldn't, but if that's the route you wanted to go, is the fact that there is an Israel, is the fact that there is a Jewish people, is the fact that the people of Israel did eventually regain their land, and that the prophecies in the Bible about the Jewish people came to pass, even if not in a literal sense. Next.
And Jesus Christ existed and did the things that the New Testament said that he did.
So there are many outside sources for Jesus Christ. There's the apostolic fathers, some of whom existed at the time of the other apostles. There are other writers, such as Josephus, such as certain pagan writers, Roman and Greek writers. I actually got their books. And they mention Jesus. Now, here's the thing. A lot of non-academic, skeptic YouTube people say these are forgeries. But, and there's a big but, in academic circles, these are accepted. For instance, one of my favorite translators, Bart Ehrman. I know you think of him as a professor, famous atheist, famous skeptic, whatever. Bart Ehrman argues for the historical Jesus. And he is not a Christian. He's a hard atheist. But if you want to look at an academic with going to be full proofs, I'd go to him. If you're looking to me, I got a ton of books, but go to the Loeb Classical Library, buy the books. It's going to have Greek or Latin on one side, and it's going to have English on the other side. Those are the books that I read. So if you're looking for proofs, those are the proofs. You don't want to accept them. Also, there's secondary proofs that are in there. So like proof that Pontius Pilate existed, proof that a certain location was where it was. Okay, so all these are kind of proofs. There's actually a book that I haven't bought yet that I want to buy. There's two of them. One's a Protestant book, one's a Catholic book. There is a secular one, but the secular one, I got better information. One of my secular Bibles. I got two secular Bibles, and the stuff in there is really good. The Oxford and the Norton Critical. You want to look for like legitimate proof without having to go through 1,000 sources. It's all collected in there. But for someone like me, and I'm guessing for someone like you, you don't want to just see the reference. You want to read the source. So, Loeb Classical Library, buy the sources. Do what I did. Spent thousands of dollars buying these books. That's the proof. But anyway, two study books that I'm going to get is one is evidence for the Old Testament. The other one is a Catholic understanding to the Old Testament, or Catholic introduction to the Old Testament. There's also the Oxford commentary that's out of print, but it's really good. And there's one that was recommended to me by this pastor who's a literalist, but I really enjoyed talking to him. It's like the archaeological proofs of the Bible or biblical archaeology or something like that. Anyway, it has all the archaeological evidence for stuff. I really like reading that kind of stuff. There are proofs in there. Why can't I rattle them off to you just one by one? Because my brain doesn't work that way. I have way too much stuff to reference. I'd have to open it up, do the research. And I did that in a video one time, and it was very boring. And I feel very bad for Bad Tempered Badger for being on that video for me. I love Bad Tempered Badger. I really do. We were making fun of Jocelyn Glenn. But Lizzie Answers did the exact same video that I did just a year later, and she made it much more fun by simply not opening the book and going to the passage. So anyway.
Prove to me that the 66 books in the Bible are divinely inspired, and that the hundreds of non-canonical biblical books aren't.
So, I've answered this question multiple times in multiple videos, and the problem is that what atheists and skeptics consider inspired and what a Catholic considers inspired are two completely different definitions of the word. For most atheists, inspired means that God himself personally came down and wrote with his hand. The Bible only describes that once, and that's with the Ten Commandments. And the Ten Commandments story, the Exodus story, was written hundreds, if not thousands of years after the actual event. And more than that, it might be a story. So, but why am I facing this way? So, you see that right there? That's the Gnostic Bible. There's another Gnostic Bible, although they call it the other Bible. That's the pseudepigrapha. That's the pseudepigrapha. That is roughly the collection of every book that's been rejected from the Bible. Okay. Up here, a lot of rejected text is inside what Catholics call the Liturgy of the Hours. We don't consider it rejected text. We don't even consider it secondary canon. We just considered it part of the foundations. Actually, I heard a Coptic explain it really well, which is that Holy Tradition has several foundations. One of those foundations is the Bible, is Scripture. One of those foundations is oral tradition or Holy Tradition. One of those foundations is going to be extra biblical writing, such as the Church Fathers or apostolic writing. And then there's other inspired writing. These would be private revelations, not public revelation. Whole thing. Okay. So here is, you said 66, right? So here's your 66, okay? Bam. Here's 77. Here's like 80. And then where's this one? This one has even more. So this one has almost all the canons except for one. In here. I think the Ethiopian is the only one that's not included, simply because the Ethiopian is way too much to include in a single book. It would be like the whole thing. But there you go. So inspiration means something a little different to a Catholic, but we're the ones who decided which books were inspired. So it's kind of a big deal that we're the ones who have the definition, not really the Protestant definition that atheists and skeptics keep trying to hold us to. So the question is, so what's the proof? And as I've said multiple times in multiple videos, the proof is how I live my life. So I've read a lot of religions. I'll show you that shelf in a second, because I guess it's going to be relevant to this video. But when I've tried living my life by other maxims and principles, even really good, solid philosophical maxims and principles, my life sucks. When I live my life by the maxims and principles of the Bible, the biblical ones, my life is much better. And things go much better for me. And I don't mean that in a simple reward, risk-reward punishment type way. That's not what I mean. I'm not talking about profitability or being wealthy. Well, I'm treating people well, and I don't feel morally compromised. So let's do that. Okay, so the reason I'm showing this is because there are a few commentators, one in particular, who will say I'm being too Christian-centric, too Western-centric. So just to dispel that argument right off the bat. These are all books that I've read, by the way. Egyptian Book of the Dead, I highly recommend. I really like it. The Papyrus of Ani. The Mesopotamian myths, really good. And they're not just Assyrian and Sumerian. There's also Babylonian and some other myths in there as well. You have the Greek stuff, which the Greeks actually believed. This was actually part of their religion. Working Days and Theogony, or Working Days especially, is a book that highly has influenced me. Got the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Homeric hymns, kind of generic myths. And then, of course, the Roman stuff, but that really is more mythology. They didn't believe it as hardcore, or in the same way that the Greeks did. Then I have the Hindu stuff, the Rig Veda, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the, can't pronounce that one, the Dhammapada, and the Ramayana. Then I have the Buddhist scriptures, the Buddhist sayings. I got a little book of Buddhism back there. Then I have some Viking stuff, the Elder Edda and the Prose Edda. And I got some Beowulf. And wait, there's more. I also have more creation myths, the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Atrahasis, the Popol Vuh, which actually the Popol Vuh is actually from my ancestors. So, I've read all that. Why don't I think these are true? Because I've also read these. Okay? These are the Church Fathers. This is what you really need to read if you want to understand the Bible and the biblical texts. Bam. Okay, the Church Fathers, the Apostolic Fathers, right there. Or you can read this version from a different translator. Or you can read this version from a Catholic translator. That, by the way, is by Bart Ehrman. The atheist golden boy right there. Or agnostic golden boy, whatever. Eusebius is important. Thomas More, I'm just a fan. Eckhart and Kierkegaard. I love Kierkegaard. You want to get an understanding of the Bible? Go read Kierkegaard. I don't like Martin Luther at all. But it doesn't stop there. See, I got, these are more newer books, but still. Okay, so, philosophy. Got a lot of philosophy. Nietzsche, I love Nietzsche. Nietzsche is actually one of the people I read that helped me. He really helped me to refine my faith. All right. What do I mean by true? I mean the Bible is true in the same way that Jordan Peterson means the Bible is true, which is that if you live out the maxims and principles, you're going to get the results that are promised. Well, if you live out the maxims and principles of the Quran, let's say, or the Bhagavad Gita, or the Vedas, those results aren't going to be the same. The principles of Buddhism aren't going to be the same. Taoism, which I love, not going to be the same. There's something missing in Taoism. So one of the things I noticed when I was practicing Taoism is that there was something missing. That's not missing in Christianity. For me, if I was to live out the principles of the Quran, I would be a very violent person. Christianity helped save me from violence, helped take me away from being a violent person to being a very peaceful person, to being a very forgiving person. Those maxims of forgiveness and intercession don't exist in the Quran. So those things that saved me from my inner turmoil and my anger were not there. So it would have fed into my distrust of other people and into my hate and anger. Taoism wouldn't have given me a moral center. It would have given me a peaceful center, so I'd been very at peace with my actions, but I wouldn't be very moral. Hinduism would lead me to believe in hard determinism and fate, and again would not help me with my morals. Instead, it would make me feel trapped by my decisions and make me follow my instincts no matter how wrong they might be. Self-denial is a very strong thing, and I think Christianity and Buddhism gets that right, but Buddhism gets it wrong when it comes to how to relegate those things. So when you have read all the other texts and you see which one is most true, or which one contains the most truth, the Bible does. And I've literally read the other texts, so I can honestly say that, or as not just as a moral intuition, but as someone who's actually read those other texts, the Bible contains the most amount of truth. It contains more truth than most science books or history books. And I've read a lot of history. I could do the exact same thing I just did. I could do that with history books. I got tons of ancient history. The Bible contains truth, not just about life, but about relations and about how people relate to each other and work with each other, that are not found in a lot of other material, ancient or new.
Prove to me that the universe is less than 10,000 years old.
I have no idea why you would want to prove that. I don't know too many Christians that believe that hokey pokey crap, so I don't know. The universe is billions of years old. The earth is billions of years old, so I don't even know what you're talking about. As a Catholic, I believe in the Big Bang and I believe in evolution. So, and that's as a Catholic. That's not just as a human being or as someone who believes in science and trusts in medicine, because I do that too. But I believe in evolution and I believe in the Big Bang for very specific Catholic reasons.
All of these celestial bodies are the same age. The stars, planets, and galaxies.
They're not.
Prove to me that every species of animals and every species of plants originated at the same time.
I mean, if you really wanted to make that argument, I guess you could argue that the material and matter was created at the same time when the universe expanded from the original bubble that was the Big Bang, or the 3 seconds before the Big Bang when everything was just super condensed and then came into being. Or do you even want to say that the Big Bang is the creation of the universe? Because the universe could have been created way before the Big Bang. It could have been something else. Anyway.
Prove to me that Christian prayer and Christian faith have supernatural abilities.
So that one's actually really easy. There are studies that show that people who pray and meditate live longer. There are studies that show that when atheists and skeptics have prayed, no, maybe these have been debunked since the last time I looked into this, but who knows. The last time I looked into this, over 10, 15 years ago, there were studies where they actually had secular people pray in groups to see if people recovered faster and slower, and the people who were prayed for did recover faster. Minimally faster. But yeah, prayer does help. Does that show that Christian prayer helps? I don't know. I know that when I meditate and pray, I feel better about things. But I think you're misunderstanding what prayer is. I think you have a very atheistic understanding of prayer. Prayer is about giving thanks to God. It's not about asking for things. It's about gratitude. It's about Eucharist. Longer thing. What you're actually talking about is liturgy. And liturgy has several parts. Basically, you're talking about a thing in liturgy called intercessions, which when a guy who wrote, so not Calvin, not Luther, the guy who wrote this one, the Book of Common Prayer, is the one who divided out prayer from liturgy and divided it out from worship. So prayer used to be simply an act of worship. Prayer then later became part of plene, which is part of liturgy called intercessions, which is where you ask God for a blessing. But prayers for the sick and the dead mean something very different in Catholic circles. So you pray for someone to have a holy death, a death that brings them to heaven, or you pray for someone's suffering to be mitigated so that their suffering is shorter or not as intense as it could be, or that their suffering helps purify them to get to heaven. It's not the avoidance of suffering or the avoidance of death or the avoidance of sickness. It's the acceptance of the human condition. And to be brutally honest, originally, because I read a lot of secular and atheistic material, I thought that what secular and atheist and ex-Christians were talking about when they said prayer and some of these beliefs, I thought that these were what the other denominations believe. But I got news for you. I've now read commentary from the other denominations, Baptist, Protestant, not non-denominational, which I think that's where you're from, Church of Christ. Even the quote-unquote literalist are not literalists in the way that you say that they're literalist. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. I mean, specifically the atheists and skeptics on YouTube, because the actual Christian organizations don't believe in what you're saying. There's another Bible that I have over here that has all the creeds that actually talk about what they literally believe, and it's not what you guys are saying Christians believe. So you're not only miscategorizing the belief, you're showing your bias.
If you want to prove to me that the Bible is true, those are the points that you have to prove at bare minimum. And if you don't already have evidence for each of those points, why do you believe that they're true? And if you have evidence to support each of these points, why do you avoid reaching out to me and show it?
So last time I watched this video, I guess a year ago, a long time ago, and I chose not to make a video response. It was basically this question right here just turned me off completely. I'm answering it now because I've already engaged him, and like I said, I do want to do a collab with him. I do want to have a real conversation with this guy. But your definition of evidence is wrong. Your definition of proofs are wrong because arguments are proofs. Your definition of Christianity seems to be misconceived. Your definition of what we mean by God seems to be misconceived. Like I said, I used to watch a lot of atheist material, and as a Catholic, I kind of laughed at all the funny, kooky stuff that you said about other Christians, about other denominations and stuff. But I've read the Baptist commentary and the Baptist commentary and the Calvinist commentary and the I don't have the Lutheran stuff yet, but I want to get the Lutheran stuff. See, there's Catholic, there's secular, Catholic Orthodox, there's Judaism over here. The Judaism stuff is really interesting and real intense, and that does take it a little bit more literal than most Christians do. But even that's not over literalist, and there's plenty of metaphor. There's this whole thing called the Midrash and the Migleos, which kind of give you the in-between stories and explain how things are meant and how it could be taken literal and what parts shouldn't be taken literal. It actually goes into real depth, and this is hundreds of years old, thousands of years old. I mean, you're talking about some of the stuff dates back to, I think, 100 years before Christ. I think one of the Megaleos or one of the commentaries dates back to 700 years before Christ, I want to say. Not 100% sure. It's been a long time since I've looked into it. I got those books over there in that room. But yeah, so you can read ancient commentary about how they're saying it's not literal. Like the Jewish people who wrote it are saying it's not literal. The Catholics who wrote the New Testament are saying it's not literal. That doesn't mean that it's 100% metaphorical. It means that it's metaphysical. And it doesn't mean that it's purely symbolic. It means that it's talking about deeper truths or ultimate realities. Or the ultimate reality. Okay. And again, I thought I coined that term. Turns out other Catholics had used it way before I was around. I didn't know that. I didn't know that other Catholics have been using that term. I thought I was the first. Humility and being humbled aside. So yeah, I mean, it depends on your definition of truth. Depends on your definition of evidence. Depends on a lot of stuff, man. Let's call this Stitch's law. It comes down to definitions. We're going to end up arguing about definitions, not about proofs, because I got infinite number of proofs. I can say, go outside, look at the sun, there's proof. I can say, here's this one time that this amazing thing happened to me. For instance, me and my friends were in my Jeep, and we didn't know there was construction happening on the highway, and there was a gap, and instead of dying, we swerved. We hit a small piece of plywood and went over it. And then at one point even kind of did the flying thing like they do in the movies, you know what I mean? And stayed on the plywood, didn't fall off. And then the cars behind us also were saved because of that. And this was like 3 o'clock in the morning. There was 3 of us in the car. There are witnesses. One of them is dead now, but you can go and you can ask the people who were there, you know what I mean? Like, this is a thing that happened. It's really cool, and it's a miracle. It's awesome. And there's little minor miracles, and there's all this other stuff. So, you know, I mean, I think even, what are something in Jake, and I know that they changed their names now because now they're transgendered, but I can't remember their original names, so I don't even know their current names. But Hugo and Jake, I don't know what their names are now. Even they talk about taking LSD or mescaline to have spiritual experiences. I think even Jacqueline Glenn, who is like my least favorite atheist apologist, although now she's no longer doing atheism stuff. She's more interesting, but she's still kind of boring. Even she's talked about, I think she even documented her mescaline experience and having a spiritual awakening. So I don't know. I mean, what do you want to call a miracle? Like aspirin is a miracle. Blood transfusions are a miracle. The fact that I had a 14A1C and now I don't, I consider that a miracle. I mean, I was on death's door. The fact that I went through a cancer scare and I didn't die, and that to me is a huge miracle. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you want me to tell you. Jesus existed. He was a real person. Historically provable. Individual. The proofs about Jesus are more substantiated than the proofs that Julius Caesar existed. They're more substantial than the proofs that Alexander the Great existed, and I don't doubt Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar. I'm not a cynical skeptic, and I think that's part of your problem, is that you seem to be a cynical skeptic. Or at least you presented yourself like that a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I don't know where you are now in your journey. And you seem disingenuous to me, because I don't think you really want to be a Christian. I think you're bitter that you're no longer a Christian. That's too bad. I know plenty of people who have become atheists. I know plenty of people who have become an atheist and then come back to being a Christian. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I've helped several of my friends through a journey of, they started off as atheists And then through years of conversation, I'm not talking about like one simple conversation, I'm talking about like 10 years of conversation, started going to church, started taking the Bible more seriously. Passages they had read 100 times suddenly made sense to them. Suddenly they wanted greater context. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, man. I hope we get to have a discussion one-on-one. I don't know that you're going to enjoy it. And I don't think your audience is going to like my answers. But, and also my channel is dying, so I don't know if you want to, attach to a sinking ship. But hey, you're welcome. I'll gladly have a conversation with you. I'm not the nicest person in the world. I am very blunt. I say bad words. I cuss. Read more Jordan Peterson stuff. I don't know what to tell you. Dallas. Wade. Buddy boy. I'm Catholic. So you're not going to get me with the usual Christian sniping. You're going to have to go a little bit deeper. I'm not saying an atheist can't out-argue me. I'd be scared to go up against Cosmic Skeptic, who he is now, who he was a few years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. I'd kick his ass in a debate. Who he is now, he'd be bringing arguments that I don't even know about. William Lane Craig is doing some amazing work with Christians and Catholics and atheists, and his stuff's really good. You want to hear better arguments, go listen to him. You want to listen to good Catholic arguments, listen to Trent Horn, listen to Lizzie Answers, listen to Jimmy Akin. Honestly, go to them. Those are the people that I trust. There's a lot of Catholic apologists. I'm not saying those are the only ones. I'm saying those are the ones that I go to. But you want to hear what I have to say. Well, I just told it to you. You don't want to hear my proofs or accept them. That's on you. That's not on me. My job is not to convince you. My job is just to tell you the truth. Whether you like it or not, that's your business. Please like and subscribe. Hope you all enjoyed this. Hopefully I edit this down.